Hello, Merry Christmas. It's Miss Darling in the studio. And today I'm pleased to show you my very first Christmas journal that I've ever made. Surprising as that may sound, I just didn't make one until this year. So I thought I would show you what I did. And here's my cover. This is not covered with fabric like I usually do, but this is paper, and also it is wrapped around the edges with washi tape. Added these gold colored metal corner protectors, and doing what I can to add a bit of glitziness to it. And let me take off this sorry tie. I'm being a little ginger with my fingers right now because I just put on some fresh nail polish. So forgive me for for doing that. So this is my Christmas ornament, and normally I would make a tassel that is attached to the spine and removable. But this time around, I think because of the bulk of what I was working with, I decided to attach it permanently to the front cover. And so there's no tassel on this journal. And I used the Midori style of binding. There's 2 signatures in this journal, and it is bound with the Japanese style of Midori binding. And so that's what the spine looks like. That was covered with washi tape that has this gold glitter to it and very festive looking. And then the back cover is the rest of the paper I used on the front cover for the background. And this is a vintage image of they're stars or snowflakes. Take your choice. Anyway, I chose that for the background, and then for my motif focal point, it's a beautiful, probably made for a Christmas card. It's a beautiful painting of Mary and the baby Jesus and Joseph. There's a couple of cherub-like angels up here which you can't see, and then there's this looks like cows or donkeys or something here, because after all he was born in a stable with animals, and so at that point in time donkeys and mules, cows maybe, were very common. And down here it says A Peaceful Christmas. Now, unlike so many other people, because I'm a Christian, I wanted to make my journal really highly focused on the Nativity, and not so you're not going to find any Santa Clauses or anything of that sort in here. I do have some traditional type of Christmas decoration that works its way throughout the journal, but it's going to be highly focused on vintage imagery of the Nativity. And so here, let's take a peek at what I did. I chose these beautiful prints. This is paper and vintage imagery of poinsettias, and 2 different kinds. I chose this for the inside covers. There's the other side is here. And then I always like to use some cardstock on the outside of my signatures. So this is a piece of cardstock, and then the rest of the pages are 30-pound laser copy paper. Anyway, I found that laser paper really gives me a brilliant printout. The only problem is that it is easily marred, and so you do have to be careful when you're using it later on. And so this was a beautiful vintage image. Here's the right side of it. The back side will appear on the back end of the signature, as you know. And so here is a very vintage image of the nativity scene, and you can see the Florentine paper and the old typeface, a very highly decorative typeface, and talking about the birth of Christ. I chose these very stylized snowflakes, and I have several of these throughout, and I turned them into pockets, and then into the pockets I have various assorted imagery featuring the nativity, for the most part, in different ways, usually from old master paintings. And then here's another page with beautiful candles. Again, snowflakes or stars. And then I have sprinkled throughout it some coffee dyed paper for journaling purposes. These two art cards are just, attached with a paper clip, so they are removable and you can write on the backs of them. Two more on the flip side. Here's another one of those very vintage imagery, and this is quoting, I think, from the Bible, the story of the Nativity. And this is on some orange dyed paper. Here we have a side tuck, and I had these lovely coin type imagery that came from a subscription service. Oop, I think I glued that on upside down. I think this is the top side of the doily, and but we got the rougher side. And here's an art card, and I have lined paper that I put on many of the cards in this journal to make it easier for someone to journal on. And then here's a little Christmassy booklet. This has some vintage imagery of ladies from the bygone era, and I had turned that into, just a little booklet. This could be like a little gift card that's attached to a gift. And so these three pieces are tucked inside this stained glass window of Mary holding her baby. Another place for journaling, and another beautiful vintage image of and I just say they were poinsettias. Here is one of the few more secular type images that I included in here. The inside of a beautiful home looks like a Tudor style of home, judging by the planks of wood and the style of the window. And here we have some more fine art imagery of the Nativity, and easy to journal on the back on another coffee dyed sheet. Two more art cards here, another vintage here, going on with the story of the birth of Jesus. Here's another one of those snowflake. It's a more modern it's a modern take, and so I turned that into a pocket. And here are a couple of more art cards. This is more of has an image of a stained glass window, and the old-fashioned pews that are still found in some churches, but have kind of gone by the wayside. Another Christmas image. And then here, my center spread in both signatures is a fine art painting printed on across the entire double spread, and that's how I did the center of both the signatures in this journal. And you can see the old Rembrandt style of lighting, where the focal point is very, very vivid and light, and just draws your attention right into the most important part of the painting. And this is no doubt Joseph here, and these are the shepherds coming to visit Christ in the manger. And now we're on the reverse side of that signature, so you'll see the other sides of the pages that I used full page imagery on. And so this was I enlarged it, a stamp from the National Gallery of Art featuring a Christmas image of an old master. And then I enlarged this image and left it blank on the other side, so it's there for journaling purposes. And this has lined coffee paper on the back. And here we are on the flip side of that Tudor style of home. And I guess the Santa did make it in here after all, but certainly not featured in any way. And I just love this image, and so it had to go in here. And this is a border design, a corner design that I cut using my a little desktop die cutter. You have to use small dies on it that do not exceed 3 inches wide, and that's what I use to make that design, to just kind of beef up this, some of the pages. I didn't, I glued some imagery that I fussy cut. I glued on a lot of these pages. It's 2 or 3 images repeated, but I didn't want to do that on every page. So, just to change it up a bit, you'll see I've used some of the die cuts there. Again, another vintage image, the birth of I can't really read that. It doesn't say, looks like Christ here, but well, anyway, has to do with Christmas. And here is a Christmas stamp, I think from Germany, featuring angels, which I thought went beautifully with this image here. And then I made this card out of cardstock, and I put another angel image on the front with the word hope, and you open it up, and inside I have included an actual vintage page from an actual vintage New Testament that I happen to have. And so this is the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1, that describes the whole birth of Jesus. And so I thought that would be really great to include in this journal. So this is an actual page from the New Testament, the book of Matthew. And so I tucked that right in here. Again, another one of the die cuts, and another beautiful enlarged snowflake. More candles. Another beautiful art card. This is an envelope that I just got a bunch of these, and so I just slipped in some of the coin things that I did not glue down. Just slipped them in as extra ephemera. And now we're getting to the end of this first signature, and just, lovely images. And here's the outside cover of the first signature. So then this is the paper that I chose for the second signature. Again, we're just repeating these star snowflake concept throughout. A vintage paper of a Christmas design. This was a fabric design done many, many years ago. And, more candles and stars. And some more modern take of the candles. Another pocket. And in here we have another stained glass window art card. And this is a fine art etching and of the manger scene, and here we have an angel. And so these are included in this pocket. More imagery of that vintage. I'm going to say it, it must be French or Italian, where this come, judging by the style of the paper around it. That's what I'm assuming. Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel. That's from the Old Testament, Isaiah 7:14. I thought this was just a beautiful painting. I don't know if it's an old master or something more modern. It looks a little modern to me, but that's an art card. And then this is a vintage image that I had, and I enlarged it to, just be another way to add more journaling space. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. And that's from Luke 2, verse 11. Matthew and Luke were the only two that wrote about the virgin birth of Jesus. And Luke was a physician in that day, so his accounts of things are usually a little more obviously from a physician's point of view, whereas Matthew was a tax collector. And here's another one of those little booklets that I made some while ago, and I just decided to, stick it in here as extra ephemera. And here we have a stained glass window of Mary, and behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, on a doily. This time I got it right side up and the rough side is on the back. Here's a beautiful scene of Bethlehem, where Jesus was born. Here we have one side of a painting of the wise men, two in the back, and on the flip side you'll see the other side of that image. Another vintage. More story about the birth of Jesus. Stars. More stars, kind of with a planet vibe. Another fine art painting of Mary and Jesus. And another one, and these again are lined to make it easy for journaling. Here I turned one of the die cut corners into a pocket, and then I stuck in this hymn, "The Angel Gabriel from Heaven Came," and this was in my stash. So I printed it off, folded it in half. You can journal on the inside, and then on this side, these are one of those, it's a coin, a collector coin that I cut from one of the papers, in fact the paper that I used on the cover. I like to repeat things to add unity to a journal. I of course want there to be variety so it doesn't get boring, but it's important to repeat certain things as you go, and that builds unity throughout. More candles. And then here was the second fine art print that I enlarged and included as the center spread of signature number 2. And another beautiful with the Rembrandt lighting and the shepherds coming to visit the baby Jesus. If you can see, there are a few little scratch marks up here that have appeared, and that's, you know, it's beautiful paper and has a lovely feel to it, very, very smooth and vellum, but it will mar, and so you do have to be very careful. I suppose in the future, using this before I would go to put something in a journal, I think I would put an acrylic spray over them to help keep that marring from happening. Now we're on the back side of signature number 2, and there's just, you know, more art cards, more imagery, another stamp. The reason it's down here is this particular sheet of coffee dyed paper was very bent here at the bottom, and I couldn't get it to straighten out no matter what I tried. And you can see here there's where you can kind of see the wrinkling of it, and so I put this vintage stamp, German stamp, down there to secure that and flatten it out, and so that's why that's there. And here's just more, I put a lot of art cards in here. I didn't do much in the way of pockets and tucks because they're so permanent, but you know, when you use paper clips to stick something in there, it makes it very easy to remove and put somewhere else if it isn't wanted or needed. So here we're coming down to the close of signature 2, the last pocket I made, and here, you know, is a tag and an art card, angels, and another coin card, and a smaller size of that stamp I used earlier. And then here's the other side of the wise men coming to visit, being led by a bright star in the east. And this is the flip side of that image, showing buildings in Bethlehem. And then another little envelope here where I just put extra ephemera that I had to use but didn't use it, and so it's just stuck in the little envelope. And just, you know, more beautiful, beautiful imagery. And when I think of the time it took to create something like that, I'm just really marvel. And so it's really precious to have, you know, images of these beautiful works of art done decades, maybe even centuries ago. So we're finishing up now with that second signature, and here's the back page, the inside back cover, and the back cover. So that's my Christmas Nativity Journal, and I hope you like it. I hope you've stayed with me to enjoy this. Hopefully you got some ideas and inspiration for what I'm doing, and would love to hear from you. Give the video a like and a comment for sure, and ask any questions you might have. I'll be happy to answer them. And so that said, this is Miss Darling calling this a wrap, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.